Good morning, America, and welcome to this morning's huddle brought to you by Going on Offense. My name is Darrell Moon, and I'll be your host today. Thank you for being with us. And we hope you'll join the conversation. We have two wonderful guest panelists with us today to talk about strategies families are using to bond remotely. We're holding these huddles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in an effort to be supportive for those who are struggling, to brainstorm strategies to help, to promote resources, and to engage collaboration. Now to introduce today's guests. It's my pleasure to introduce to you my friend Aubree Cleary, specialist in communications, marketing, and brand enhancement, and her mother, my dear friend, Robin Foust, an award-winning health scientist, analyst, and architect in the field of health and human performance. I'm going to invite Aubree and Robin to take 4 or 5 minutes to introduce themselves and to share a comment or two about today's topic. But before I do, I want to again invite all of you to participate in today's conversation. We would love to include you in the conversation and your ideas. Today's a topic that we all can participate in. I'm sure most people are doing something to stay in touch with their families, and we'd love to hear your ideas and thoughts. Now, I'm going to give Aubree a chance to introduce herself, and then Robin. Aubree?
Hello, Darrell. It's good to see you, and thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Aubree Cleary, and I live in a little town called Belle Isle near Orlando, Florida, with my husband and my 8-year-old daughter. I feel very fortunate to be able to work from home as a stay-at-home mom, and I'm very excited that my own mother, Robin, could join us for today's huddle, considering the topic is about how families are bonding remotely during this time.
Thanks. Robin?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I am really excited to hear what others have to add to the discussion. I am a founder of a company called My Catalyst. We do all kinds of data analytics and reporting for employers and providers across the country. It's been a very, very interesting time to see really what was happening data-wise within companies for pre-COVID and now post-COVID, and all the analytics going into what they need to do, some of the adaptation when they are essential businesses. And Darrell, I know you're dealing with that as well with your own company, and other businesses that are trying to learn how to work remotely. And one of the things I thought too when I was talking with Darrell and Aubree, is that, you know, even in a small or large company, sometimes your coworkers are kind of like family, or people that you work with, professionals and colleagues, are friends. So it's just as important to stay in touch and keep bonding with the employees in your organization and with your other professional colleagues, you know, and staying in touch with those businesses. And we're all dealing with some challenging times right now. But again, just very grateful to be able to talk to everybody today and see what we learned after we share some things that actually Aubree was very instrumental in our extended family setting up. So we were all grateful to her taking that initiative and getting it rolling.
So yeah, I'd like to jump in and ask Aubree to share what your family's been doing. And for those that have just joined us, today's topic is about how families are bonding remotely. And we really want to hear ideas from not only those that we've collected and that we're doing, but we'd love to hear from you. So please use the control box to either raise your hand and we'll turn on your microphone and you can join the conversation, or send in your ideas and thoughts or questions through the questions in the control box. So Aubree, share a little bit about what your family's been doing.
So I've been very fortunate to grow up in a very close family. During my childhood, the matriarch of our family, my grandmother, would always get us all together in the Carolinas, but we've all since moved around the country. And, you know, while I was staying home during the quarantine, I was like, I'm doing my part to social distance. But I started to think more about my family members. They're all of different ages, different stages of life. And I was like, you know, I wanna reach out. I wanna figure out a way to reach out. So I created an extended family contact list and sent out a group text to everyone, kind of just sharing what my immediate family was doing, how we're handling the virus and quarantine. And slowly, some of the family members started to kind of engage a little bit and share. It was really fascinating to me how differently everyone was handling it. And for instance, let's just say my sister-in-law, she was closing in on the end of her maternity leave. And then we got hit with the virus, and she suddenly had to transition to learning how to teach her, her 7-year-old. So that's been a challenge, and also working from home. So that's a lot of responsibility. My older cousin, he's used to working from home, and he was struggling to find other activities for his sons who were constantly playing video games all day long. I had another younger cousin who, instead of going back up north to New Jersey, he decided to stay with his parents and bond with them and go outside. Instead of riding his stationary bike indoors, he got out more with them. And it was kind of neat to hear that some of the other family members started to do the same things, where they started to go hiking together, doing other outside activities like gardening. And in fact, one of my other cousins' wife shared she was so happy that her college-age sons were home, but she noticed that the online classes were a bit more challenging for them. However, her oldest son was starting to learn how to cook, and he was making all the family meals and things like that. So I thought that was just so great to hear how the families were starting to bond in that way. And we just started sharing ideas, and it really started to open everyone up. And as time went on, over the weeks, the responses were different. Even some of my more reserved cousins were more vocal. So that really touched me, and it was very rewarding to feel like I was able to help bring us together during this time. I think my grandmother would have been proud. What do you think, Mom?
Definitely.
Robin, share your perspective on what the family's done as you've been a part of that.
Yeah, you don't really think about how much you miss your family till you are quarantined or you're sheltering in place, and your friends. So it was true. The group text, actually, I felt like we were learning more about my nephews and nieces. Typically, we don't hear all these neat things that they're doing or dealing with. We had all kinds of things like people graduating from high school, people graduating from college. We were trying to do what we could, and through the group texting, and then at Easter time, I'm sure Aubree will share what we did there, that started where we really could see other things that were going on. But yeah, we were learning things about others that we don't, that we haven't heard in a long time or didn't know about. Like my nephews, when she talks about our getting together more visually rather than just text. I don't know what it is, because Darrell, you're clean shaven, but it seems like all the men were like, and these were my nephews. Right? Some young nephews, I go, whoa, look at those beards. But anyway, yeah, I think that was, in some sense, it was even better than normal. The new normal was a little bit better, because we were learning things and hearing things we didn't typically get otherwise.
You've turned lemons into lemonade. So Aubree, tell us what happened at Easter time.
Okay, so yes, so we were texting quite a bit, and I sent a video of a home video that someone created of, like, they called it the Corona light show, and it reminded me of my older cousin's light shows that he would do, and he's actually prepping for a fireworks show for July 4th, and it's amazing. And so we started talking about how can we get our family closer, as well as his brother, who's very musically talented. So I reached out to the both of them and said, would you mind being involved in a potential Zoom for the family? Let's make sure everybody knows, with technology, knows how to use the Zoom software, if you will. And so I reached out to everyone and said, so would you be interested in doing a Zoom on Easter to get us all together? Because again, as growing up, we would always get together during the holidays. And I was really surprised at the turnout. Again, like really quiet cousins who don't always hang out necessarily or quite reserved were participated. My new baby nephew, who we don't get to see too much, made an appearance. So it was really great. We were on our Zoom for like an hour that day, and it just felt really nice and normal. Like it was like our normal holidays. It felt really great, and I got a lot of great feedback from everyone saying how grateful they were. And honestly, after Easter, I didn't have to initiate a lot of the texting.
It just
A
started
lot
happening.
family members started to chime in and for more engagement, which I kind of sat back a little bit and was enjoying just kind of seeing what other people were sharing and what they were up to.
Cool. Well, I'll share with you something that one of my daughters did. She's kind of the activist in the family, and her husband came up with the idea of let's do trivia. So each Sunday evening now, as a pattern, as a weekly tradition, one of the family, and I've got 8 children, so we've got a lot of us involved. Not everybody's doing it, but someone takes a turn to come up with trivia questions. And sometimes they're just your basic trivia questions, whether it's geography or pop culture or whatever the topic may be. But sometimes it's kind of grown. It's starting to move into family questions, like, did you know that grandma used to do this? Or which grandparent did this? Or did you know that you have a relative that did one of the following? Which one, A, B, or C? And so I'm not very good at trivia. I'll be the first to admit that I almost always lose the game. And it's always the winner that takes on the next week's trivia game, right? And so I'm thinking, I'm safe until this last Sunday when almost everybody else has had a turn. And my oldest daughter said, hey, let's use the overall loser for this next week to put the questions together. So it's my turn to come up with some trivia questions for this. It takes about an hour, but everybody kind of is on their honor to score themselves and to share what their points were. But it's been a lot of fun it's been fun to chat, but it's been fun to actually play a game together that we come up with, and of course everybody has different questions, and it's created a camaraderie that's been actually pretty fun.
That's a great idea. Let's do that.
I might join you, Darrell, in being one of the ones who, I'm not great with trivia either, and it would be really fun to kind of probably learn more about our relatives that we didn't know. I feel like that's been happening over the years, Mom, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, my wife's really good at family history and does a lot of work in family history, and so she was in charge of the trivia question this last week, and it's fun because this too has evolved, but the very last category, and each category usually has 5 or 7 questions, but the last category is a category of, kind of double or nothing. So if you choose to participate in the last category, if you get it right, you get 2 points, but if you get it wrong, you lose a point. So you can either decide not to participate or you have to participate. And it was all questions on ancestors. And it's like, oh boy. And it made it kind of fun. It's like, I didn't know we had a relative that did that. So it's been a lot of fun.
Darrell, one thing I thought that was really neat too is we all know we've got some pretty talented musicians in our family, but my nephew, very talented. And Aubree, why don't you share what you arranged for him to do, which was, excuse me, was some entertainment, but it was really neat.
Yeah, so recently he shared that he was inspired by our group texting, and he posted his first post on social media to encourage others, and he writes a lot of songs, and so he penned a song called "Darkness is Losing." And when I saw it, I was so touched by it, and I asked him, would you mind if there's an opportunity that presents itself towards the closing of our Zoom, that you play that for everyone? And he did, and it was just a great way to end the call. And it seems like he's actually a little bit more active now with his music online, which I love because I think it's healing for him in so many ways. And then his brother actually, after the call was over, he posted a picture of our family reunion that we used to always go to growing up as kids at the beach, of a picture that we took 6 years ago. And honestly, it was just so nice to see everybody contributing and seeing what they're doing now since the beginning of us being quarantined. Like, it's been a few months now. It's awesome to watch them just kind of like go for it and like share more, because that's how you connect with others. And my oldest cousin, actually, we're planning another surprise, Mom, so I hope you can keep it a secret, but he usually does this amazing fireworks show. And for his community, he spends about $5,000 on fireworks. The community donates. And so he may or may not be able to do it for the community this year, depending on what's going on in Washington State, which is where he is. But he's planning to share his fireworks show with the family on our group text again, just to lift everyone's spirits and connect us all. I mean, it's just so great.
Nice. So go ahead, Robin.
Well, one other thing I wanted to add, if you're doing this, I couldn't have done it, but the same nephew, her cousin, happens, I don't know how, but got a picture of everybody in the Zoom. So it was like,
really?
Not only did we, and then he posted the older picture 6 years earlier. So not only did we get like a family portrait from that sharing, you know what I mean? So, and it was kind of neat too to go look at what we looked like in this group picture in Zoom versus what we looked like 6 years ago, but in how much people had grown, the little ones had grown. But that was neat to be able to get that too from that time period to hold on.
So how many different people were in the Zoom call?
Oh gosh, Aubree, did you ever count?
I mean, I feel like it was about 19 of us, or actually maybe
19
20
little boxes.
considering the baby. Well, the family was together, but it was a full screen. But yeah, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, their children, and everyone made an appearance, even if it might be a little brief, or they were, got back to their video games or whatever. I was just so touched that everyone made the effort to get together. And then even since, I've been receiving even individual messages from them, or phone calls even, because normally these days people don't really get on the phone too much. So to actually take the time to get on the phone and connect in that way with my family members, to me, it just made me feel so much better and not alone during this time. And I mean, I can't wait to be able to see everyone in person, just because we are fairly close. In fact, my cousin who did send out that picture, who lives in Washington, he and his family were planning to come visit me in Florida for a vacation, which ultimately had to be canceled. So we're talking about rescheduling that. And it's just really nice to be able to talk to them a little bit more than like once a year even, so it's just great to see, like my mom is saying, some of the kids are pretty reserved and not always a part of the family reunion, if you will. You don't barely see them too often, but they were actually more engaged in the Zoom or even on our text, sending pictures and videos and fun little jokes and things like that kept me rolling for days.
That reminds me, I've got, so we have within my kids and my wife and I, we have a group text, and it's a great way just on a regular basis to be sharing ideas and thoughts, and sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're serious. But my oldest granddaughter, who's now, I should know this, probably 10 or 11, has now her own, it's a kind of a phone, but she can text, so it doesn't have all the capabilities of a phone, but she can be a part of the group text. It's been so fun as a family to have this granddaughter participate in these conversations, and she's very active, and her comments are just really funny.
I bet my daughter can do things on an app and social media. Like I'm sure with my mother when they talk sometimes. I don't know how she does it, but I'm in the other room and I hear my mom giggling and for a long time. And Caitlin, my daughter, really enjoys just being able to. She could probably help with my Zoom call. They're so advanced nowadays, these kids. And also she was for a while doing school from home virtually on Zoom, so she knows how to use Zoom better than I do.
That's surprised. So I'm curious, so the nephew that wrote the song, that's shared amongst the Zoom. Has he recorded that like on YouTube?
Yes, actually, there was someone in his church congregation that made a video for it just recently. Like, it's come a long way since he wrote it, and then more people have gotten involved. In fact, the gentleman that did the video had done a drawing, like a sketch during the song, and it's really beautiful. I'll be honest, I teared up at the end of that call because he is just 2 years older than me, and we were very close growing up. So, and I've really heard a lot from him since. Normally he's super busy. He's a hard worker. He works in construction. He hasn't stopped working, and he's also an extrovert. So he felt this time was so isolating for him. And in fact, he would joke around on the text message to try to tease my younger cousins, who are more of an introvert, to chat more. In fact, it worked because he's always good at that. And then to hear those guys open up a little bit more, and they actually play instruments as well. So the fact that music is so healing is powerful. And yes, it is on YouTube. I mean, I'd have to ask him if I could share, but I'm so proud of him for so many
We'd love to have a little video at the end of each of these huddles, and we've tried to find ones to share. I would love to share his video if he's open to letting us do that. So get his permission, and if he's open to it, send me a link.
Okay, will do.
We'll share it at the end of one of these upcoming huddles. Okay. So we have some comments and some ideas that have come in from other people. So let me just share some of those ideas. Jenny says, we've created a family culture night where each month the person in the family selects some sort of cultural enrichment activity for everyone to do. This might be reading an article or a book beforehand and then gathering to discuss it. Recently, my brother-in-law has had us listen to a 7-part movement of music that was inspired by various works of poetry, and we discussed both and the connection between them and our interpretations. We've watched movies together on Netflix, party mode. Sometimes we do more kid-friendly activities like a Disney trivia night or a Kahoot for kids. This month, we're all reading a designated fairy tale and then coming together to discuss it, as well as everyone bringing our favorite children's book to share with the group. All of this done over Zoom. We also have a family group me app, which is great for sending articles, videos, pictures, etc. It's super nice because everyone can share and stay connected. And you don't have to worry about dumb group texts, where some people have Apples and some have Androids. So you get a million text notifications every time someone likes something. So those are some cute ideas. I would like to encourage others who are listening in, please share through the control box and the questions section. If you've got ideas or thoughts, or have seen families do different things, please share those, or just raise your hand on the control box and I'll turn on your mic and you can share those audio. Let me just ask if either of you know of other families that are doing things and maybe what they may be doing.
Mom,
Robin or Aubree?
Did you want to talk about how in your company that you feel it's such a small company that it does feel like a family, maybe what you have all been doing that might be a little different than as per se our extended family connections?
Sure. I think, quote, one size doesn't fit all, but when you are virtually, we do have this type of technology we're using today to meet and on a regular basis. We do use another form of business Skype, which we're able to literally text immediately. We call it pinging, to talk to people throughout the day. One of our colleagues and one of our staff had a little vacation time on the lake, and he sent a text which was, it looked like you were on the boat because it was looking out at the water. But I said, that one, you shouldn't have said that one. Although I have to admit, I've gone back once in a while and said, look, I'm on the boat, on the water, kind of taking it all in. There's lots of other techniques we're using as well. I think it is important to stay connected to your work family, especially because it's not only stress of work sometimes, it's stress of, again, sheltering in place and not being able to do. We have a marathon runner who's literally went ahead, and the marathons have been canceled, but she's gone ahead and run those marathons near her home.
Wow.
So amazing woman. But anyway, so it's nice to kind of share and go, oh, wow, you know, and give that recognition to them. We also have an epidemiologist on staff. She's also the marathon runner, who's been keeping us up to date on some other things. We have nurses on staff. Darrell, you probably have that ability too, that kind of keeps the rest of us informed. So there is a resource, maybe I can send it to you later, about kind of 11 best practices for working remotely, which I'd be glad to get to you, Darrell, if that would help.
Please do. We actually have a section on the Going on Offense website for ideas and suggestions and resources. So I'd love to post that.
Okay, I will send that to you, because if you're not used to working remotely, you've been used to, you know, coming into the work site, you know, your commute to work, getting to the work site, dressing in appropriate work attire. I love some of the late night shows, right, when they get up and walk away and you can see they're in their pajamas. No telling what we've got on, right? But dressing appropriately, you know, you're having lunch with other people. You can do virtual lunches. You can do virtual things with your colleagues or your friends. Hey, can I have lunch with you virtually? To still have those kind of connections and those kind of techniques in place. Because if you're used to that and then you've been in this working at home mode, you got to learn these new techniques. But yeah, I will send that to you to cover those 11 things.
Well, and that makes me think, when you talk about some of the things your group has done at the work family, we similarly had regular phone calls where everybody jumps on a call. They're not as apt to want to get on a Zoom, although we did have a new employee starting, and I made everybody go on camera that day. It's like, I'm going to give you a whole week to get ready, to take a shower, do your hair, but next week at our meeting, I'm going to ask you to go on Zoom so this new employee can meet you. So that was kind of fun.
Fantastic, yeah.
But it's been interesting. Before this pandemic, when we would get together and have a meeting, we stuck to business. But now that it's sort of almost a remote environment, more personal, I guess, the conversations have, yes, been business, but they've always flowed over into personal things as well. You know, we usually give people at the end of the meeting a chance to talk about what's going on. You know, one mentioned that they actually got on a plane and had to fly somewhere. We're all curious, like, well, what is it like to go to the airport? And what is it like to be on a plane? And so it's been interesting how work has become more personal because of the remoteness. I don't think that would have happened if it was just kind of status quo.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to try that, because some of our have been resistant to the web portion. So I'm going to try that technique there. Thank you.
Give them a lot of time to prepare.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Here, I love that you say, because it's like, you know, your employees you're all going through it together. You all have your families. And as a stay-at-home mother, I've had several mothers reach out and like for support. And so I've learned about these new apps that are out there. One's called House Party. So we've had our mom's night out on the app where we can easily join in, or if a child needs us, we can hop off real quick and come right back.
Right.
And there's also other ways you can connect on Facebook through video as well that I've learned recently. That was one thing that I appreciated as a mother, because you are going through it together, and a lot of us mothers were becoming teachers all of a sudden too. And so we were supporting each other for other resources during that time, and even over the summer, because I don't want my child to slip before returning to school if we go back or if we do virtual again. So there are so many other ways, thankfully, due to technology. I can't imagine this happening years ago when there wasn't, because I feel like we're making. Even right now, us right now, having this discussion, I've already learned so many things that I want to implement with my own friends and family, just because we're learning from each other. I will say from some of my other friends and mothers, this is not technology driven, but when someone had a birthday, people would drive by and honk and hold up signs, and people were, you know, the children or the adults, I've been participating in all of them, were so touched. We had a Zoom for a friend of mine for her 40th birthday, and the screen was full. And she was so overwhelmed with emotion that so many people showed up for her. And it's just been, honestly, it's been incredible. I feel like you said, going on the offense per se, it is a movement, and you just have to look for the positive. I feel like I've been connecting with my family even more, like we're talking about today, and praying that we can all get together in person soon. But I feel like the relationships have strengthened also during this time as well. And I feel like I can reach out to those mothers who said, hey, let's connect, or, oh, is there a celebration coming up? Let's brainstorm some ideas that we can make it special for our children or for our spouses. So it's really been incredible. And I love that you have this platform, that everyone can get together and share ideas and learn from one another.
Your comment about the drive-by reminded me, I was listening to a radio the other day, and they talked about a kindergarten teacher who got cancer and had to go through a lot of treatments and therapies and so forth. And after being at the hospital for some time and then coming home from the hospital, all of the families all of her family members, all of her kindergarten kids, they all did a parade drive-by. You know, they organized this huge, you know, hundreds of cars drove by her house as she looked out the window, and they were all giving signs of support and best wishes and good luck with the cancer treatments, and we still love you, and, you know, what can we do to support? It was just really neat to hear that. And of course, she was touched by the fact that so many from her community came out to support her in light of what's going on. So there's other ideas coming in. Let me just share. So Megan says, we've also used Zoom to play Jackbox TV, Jackbox.tv games. Murder Trivia Party is our favorite. My siblings and I have Marco Polo groups that we utilize a lot to check in and share quick video messages. So, and then someone says, yes, Jackbox is so fun. My family does the same thing. So another person, Kylie says, with my husband's cousins, every Friday night we hold a Zoom and game night. The game is called Jackbox TV, so same thing. And each player can connect through their phone, and we have a Zoom call all at the same time. It's so much fun. So doing two things at the same time. We have another one, Amy. For the past couple years, my family has been using Google Hangouts for a siblings call. Every third Thursday at 9 p.m., we've set that on the calendar, and it's just for the 6 of us to chat and check in. We talk any family business and then go around the room to give individual updates. It's been very nice to reconnect with my core family without spouses or kids. We've kept that up through this COVID, and it's been great. It's been nice. We have another one, Tara. With all the summer birthdays, we've done surprise Zoom birthdays and with family members. We surprise the birthday person with a whole bunch of unexpected friends and family members to jump on a Zoom call to say happy birthday. We have some virtual book clubs to create content for conversation, and then Marco Polo app messages. So great content, great comments coming in. Please, others, share if you've got some ideas or thoughts. We'd love to read those to everybody so everybody can hear about them. Any of those ideas bring up any thoughts or concepts or ideas from anybody?
Yeah, but I wrote down the Jackbox TV, so don't forget it. Sounds like a great idea. Didn't
I
know
think
that.
that's one we actually used at a company party a couple of years ago. It is actually fun. There's lots of different games that you can do with it. And it's like you can be sitting in the same room and watching a monitor with you're all playing the game, or you can all be remote and just watch your monitor and play the game. So Jackbox.tv.
I love that. I feel like, Mom, we're going to be, all of a sudden our family is going to be, where did this come from? You know, we tend to like regroup over the weekends, and then it kind of like trickles down throughout the week. It's been kind of cool to see what people are sharing. Like my cousin was making baked goods for her father and her brothers to keep them healthy, you know, and so there were tons of jokes being thrown around with that. As Mom mentioned earlier, my cousin shaved his beard, and then all the younger cousins were like posting selfies of their beards, the younger guys, which I thought was hilarious. And my uncle posted a video about something funny about facial hair. And I mean, it's been so great. I know, Mom, you really like Netflix and Prime shows, so people were throwing in recommendations on like shows to watch during this time. Of course, birthday shout outs, which, I mean, who doesn't like a birthday shout out to make you feel special? And then even house showing announcements. I know some people in my family are selling their home, and to feel that support from being so far away, I feel is important. And in fact, crazy enough, where I live, we just had a tornado develop in our lake right behind us, and I shared the picture and video. Luckily, we're okay, but my family did, one of my family members did see it on the news and was concerned, and I said, we are fine, but who would have thought that this tornado would have developed right in our backyard? So even things like that, normally we wouldn't be engaging with each other, but this time, if you look for the positives, you certainly can find them.
Yep. So another comment just came in. My family lives in Arizona, and we use FaceTime to connect. Every Wednesday night, we get on FaceTime and have a virtual family dinner. We even cook the same meal, so it feels like we are actually together. That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing. What you mentioned about cooking reminds me, I have 8 children, but only 1 at home. And so she's just finished her junior year, and so it's kind of just her and her 2 old parents. But she's become very interested in cooking, especially during this time. And so she'll cook, cooking's become a real favorite of hers. Unfortunately for us, she loves to cook pies and cookies and cakes and desserts. And finally, my wife said the other day, she goes, okay, I'm putting Molly on a restriction. She can only cook 1 dessert a week. This is not working because they're pretty good. She's getting pretty good at it. Better stick to vegetables and something healthy.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard of gaining the 19, the quarantine 19 pounds during this time. All the stuff that people are eating and sharing.
So Robin, I'm curious, maybe not to shift entirely, but to shift a little bit, as companies are beginning to loosen up the restrictions and people are starting to come back, what are some things you're hearing, and maybe some of the things your company's doing to begin to gradually, migrate this work family back into the work environment? Any thoughts or ideas that you've heard?
I know, really preparing the workspace is one thing that we're hearing about, where they're trying to do what they can do for social distancing still, and wearing masks and more access to hand sanitizing equipment, and so dispensing machines throughout the work sites. Some of our businesses we work with are essential businesses. I found it really interesting that one of them that's an essential business, they have on-site clinics. They kept one of the locations staffed, but the other ones moved completely to a virtual telehealth, teleclinic
Environment.
type mode of delivery. And I know it might be interesting for you to share. I'd love to hear how you've been adapting what you do as well, because I know you help work sites with helping people help themselves and manage their health and well-being as well. That helps employers control cost and have a healthier, more productive work site, etc. And I think a lot of them, the remote piece, we've been trying to support what we could, even though we're data oriented, we're still trying to support what is your data saying. We are seeing, of course, a lot of people have put off procedures, mammography screening, colonoscopies. And in some cases, there are concerns that, there's things going on that aren't being detected early, which makes prognosis and treatment better. And the employers are saying, actually, for the most part, now some of them are dealing with COVID cases, but the cost of healthcare is going down because nobody's going. But they're concerned about the balloon.
Yeah, it's going to show up.
Yeah. So, we're in there from a data analytics perspective, trying to help them stay on top of things. But just the adaptation and probably those 11 best practices. If you're giving me a minute, I'll try to see if I can locate it. I can read it to you, which might be boring, but
Okay.
I know
While you're doing that, Aubree, are you at liberty to share some of the things your husband's doing and what the sports industry is doing to kind of migrate back into work?
Definitely. So we're actually both on a call right now, which is constant lately because of where we live in Orlando. Disney is opening up in mid-July, and their sports complex out there is quite large, and they have lots of resorts where a lot of the guests stay on property. So my husband's employer, ESPN, is owned by Disney. So looks like professional soccer is starting soon, as well as the NBA. There's been talk about the NFL and the MLB. They're just waiting for players to also make decisions there on their unions. So what's going on is there's different types of tiers of employees that are working on these shows, and some are being quarantined on site, and some are able to come home depending on your interaction. So for instance, if you're a player, they're asking for the first 2 weeks to stay on property and isolate yourself. They're taking your temperature. You have your hand sanitizers, your mask, all the things. And then there are some employees like my husband who will mostly be in a television truck, but he will be able to come home every night, which is not typical. We're not used to spending this much time together. Usually he's traveling quite a bit, but thankfully, because of our location and that Disney does own ESPN, he's able to work locally. He was asked the other day if he would be open to get on a plane if there are other if NFL starts back soon. And so, ironically, speaking of football, when this all started, we had the strangest conversation I felt as a couple, because he was working on the XFL. Like that was they were trying to start that up again. They were doing all these amazing using new technology for sound and interviews with miking coaches, the players. It was going really well and it was picking up momentum. And the next game was in Seattle, which Washington was a hot spot at the time. And he said, I need to have a talk with you. They're asking me if I would want to go. We're not going to have, there's going to be at the time it was going to be like no fans. And then the very next day, the sports world just kind of collapsed. It started with the NBA. And I wasn't thankful, but at the same time, within the next week, there was an announcement that one of the Seattle players got the virus, as well as one of the field workers. So, but now it looks like things are starting to come back. And I know, for instance, speaking about my family and our group text, some of the family members are like, I miss sports. Ask Kevin, when is it coming back? Some people, like my father, who's a huge race fan, was watching iRacing because they were showing iRacing for content, showing old games and things like that. So it's interesting to be on this side of it, watching all the conference calls and all the planning that are going into getting sports back on television, because I know that there's so many people that you can only watch so much Netflix, I guess, and so many shows and sports just brings people together. And so I'm excited for him that because I can tell he's happy that he's back to normal, if you will, a new normal, if you will. But it will be interesting to see, and things could change. The tiers could change. So they're just being very flexible, but also very safe at the same time.
And so will these be sport activities without fans? So it'll just be televised?
Right. So there's going to be no fans, which a lot of our friends that we've shared that are soccer fans or basketball fans are pretty bummed because but Disney's being very safe. In fact, Disney Springs, which is nearby here, once you go there, they temperature check you as well, and not even all of the restaurants and shops are open yet. So they're being very careful. They're having limited capacity. I'm going to ask my husband, I'll be curious to see how many people are actually on site. Because, for example, for the NBA, they're only taking the teams that would have made the playoffs. So it's not like there's only certain teams that are going to be here. But I'm sure the players want to get back to some kind of normalcy too. And hopefully, so far it sounds like they're being very smart about how they're doing things. And I'm excited that he's getting back to work. And I'm being a very supportive wife, and he's being supportive of me right now. We've helped each other during this time, like keeping our daughter entertained and when we do have work obligations. And so it's been an interesting time. It's like we're living in history.
Yeah, we'll look back. So Robin, did you find those?
I did, thank you. I'm going to start off where they had done some surveying and for people who were working remotely, and they said their major thing, number one challenge was communication, because you can't, even if you're on the phone, you can't, where the webinar helps, right? You can't tones you're hearing, you can't see how people might be reacting versus being with them in person. Being able to follow up real quickly. By going down the hall real quick. And that's where, again, we've adapted Skype so we can literally just right immediately get some responses. The lack of social opportunities was ranked second because there's no office. They can't have lunch like we mentioned earlier. Loneliness and isolation was the third most cited challenge. It can kind of get your energy down. Now, the 11 best practices for working remotely, and they give you ideas on how to handle it and address it, was 1, practice good meeting etiquette. 2, experiment with what makes you most productive. 3, prioritize documentation and clear communication. I'll say back to that other one too. It is hard if you're not used to working remotely to discipline yourself that I'm going to the office, I'm going to go have some lunch, I'm coming back to the office. And I guess really the most challenging thing is if you have a commute home, you have the ability to kind of debrief,
Unwind.
Unwind. But here sometimes, you are walking into another room, right? And your mind's still churning, or I gotta write that down, or it takes a while, and your spouse is there trying to talk with you, or your friends are trying to, and so forth. The fourth one was create boundaries between work and life. And that was kind of some examples there. Make yourself visible at work. So remotely, just don't, make sure they know you're engaged in your work. Schedule time for socializing during work. Like I said, you can have virtual lunches with people. Connect with your teammates. Do postmortems, or we call them debriefing, on key projects. So you're probably doing that as well, Darrell. I'm sure some of the people on this meeting are doing that with projects they're working on that went well, didn't go well, new clients they're bringing on board, hopefully. Transitioning those that have left, hopefully not. Build in accountability. And we have kind of task list that we are checking on to make sure people are getting their work done. Define yours and the team's responsibilities. And then last but not least, focus on your health and well-being, everybody on the team, etc. So I will give you that link because it does give you some ideas on those 11 things. And I found it very useful.
We'll post it on the website. Thank you so much.
Well,
So we're running out of time, and I'd like to just, if either one of you or both of you have a final comment that you'd like to make, and then I've got a closing video I'll share with everybody.
I'll start because Aubree started this, and I'll start to end it. One, thank you, and thanks for the great ideas we learned. I think if anything, it just takes someone to take the initiative, and I think you'll find others will follow suit. It's like Aubree fortunately took the initiative in our family, and others are contributing, texting, and so forth. And I really love the idea of the trivia or the Jack thing. So, but anyway, just someone take the initiative if you haven't already done so. It will pay off in ways you just can't even think of at this point.
Great, thank you. Aubree, any last minute thoughts?
I will say I have learned quite a bit today, and I've always looked up to my mother, and it was so great to be able to do this with her. And again, as a family member, and to be able to share what we've been doing with our own family to connect. And like she said, it just takes one person to make a change and change that direction into more positive direction and engagement. And I can't wait to share some of these ideas with our own family. They don't know what they're in for.
Well, thanks to both of you, both Aubree and Robin. Thank you for your participation today. The conversation's been delightful. It's been fun. We want to remind people that we do these huddles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we will send out a survey at the end of this, basically asking you to share your thoughts and your input on future topic ideas, or if you've got guest panelists you'd like to recommend. We are recording this. We'll be posting on the website later. And we're going to show a video that I think you'll enjoy. And we'll end the huddle when the video concludes. So I'll say goodbye right now and wish you all the very best and look forward to seeing you in a future huddle.
Thank you.